Welcome to Happy Hill, the podcast. We deliver meaningful content to grow your faith, well-being, and lifestyle. Hey neighbor, I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, lifestyle coach, inspiring others to develop self-worth through leadership applications that will enable them to live in purpose. Welcome to the neighborhood. Happy Hill, the podcast. Welcome back to the neighborhood family. I am your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, and we are here with a wonderful guest, which she believes in injecting hope and productivity in the hearts and minds of those she's been fortunate to encounter. In every ounce of her professional life, she releases the power of what she calls the leadership trifecta. Through her coaching, she focuses on the person and the process. She do this through the necessary changes around their self, their work, as well as their home. She is a Jack Canfield Success Principal Certified Trainer. She is a mom. She is a wife. She's an entrepreneur. But more importantly, she is a leader. Please welcome to the neighborhood and welcome to Happy Hill the podcast, my dear friend Jecara Rivera. How you doing?
I'm so great. Oh, I sound so good when you read it up on me. But you have captured who I am as a person. And it really is just to impact others, inspire, and make people the better versions, help them become a better version of themselves for sure. And I'm happy to be here. And I see you do the same on your show. So I'm excited to continue the conversation.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited for you to be here. I mean, really just some wonderful things that you're doing. As we kind of talk about the leadership trifecta, right? As we really hone into those three areas, as you talk about yourself, your work, and your home, in which I have said this plenty of times. Leadership is not a title, but a decision. You know,
Mhm.
it's a decision, it's a responsibility. So before we actually get into all that and really discuss some of your how tos and just different things that you provide during your coaching session or training to others, talk to me a little bit about your background, your upbringing, and the reason for that. I want that to be somewhat of the backdrop to kind of help us thread through some of your leadership upbringing or leadership experiences that you have definitely been able to bring to your leadership trifecta and bring to your business. So talk to us a little bit about your upbringing, your background, and just a little bit about yourself.
That works. Yes. So I was born into a military family. My dad was in the army, so I moved around quite a bit growing up. And
Hmm.
doing that, I got to see the different parts of the world, see different types
Wow.
of people. And I really feel like my travels made me really open to just change and difference. And it really didn't.
Mm.
And I really enjoyed that learning about people's culture, what they eat, because I love to eat. So trying different foods was important to me and different travels. So that made me a very open minded person from a young
Yeah.
age. We did settle in the Orlando, Florida area and love this area, been here for quite some time.
Oh
But
wow.
being in a military family, you can imagine there were some strict rules we had to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but if you're like me, you're a bit rebellious and we don't like rules very much. So we buck the system as much as we can.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
For me, that just meant doing everything opposite my parents wanted me to do. So
Mhm.
when I became a teenager, I was very involved in school, really into sports, and enjoyed my friends. Had a good time. Started a job, but what I also started to do is mess with them little boys too. And my mama always said, books before booty. Like, come on now. We have to keep it straight. Keep your priorities straight.
Hmm.
And with that, unfortunately, again, with the rebellious child, as I was, and as some
Yeah.
of us are, we reach a little bit further than we should. And so
Hmm.
found myself in a relationship that really wasn't a relationship because once I was in the relationship, found out I was pregnant, and the
Hmm.
relationship went bye-bye. But now I had a new relationship with this little child
Yeah.
of mine.
Yeah.
So it was a really downtime for me because being so involved in school, great grades, I
Hmm.
really thought I was going to college. And once I found out I was pregnant, my dreams were dashed. Have
Wow.
you ever, been there, thought that everything was working perfect, and then life hit you?
Oh,
And
life comes comes at you fast.
it
Definitely.
can. And
Yes.
so much so, I found myself in a deep depression where I would
Mm,
cry myself to sleep. I mean, have you ever cried so much on a pillow?
yeah.
It was so wet, you had to flip it over. Whew.
Yes. Wow.
So
Come on, talk
I
about it.
really had to find how to pull myself out. And I realized I
Yeah.
couldn't do it by myself, but it was really the belief of my family around me that said, you can still do this, whatever your dreams and goals are. And I wanted to be the first Black female CFO of a major corporation. Ooh, I was dreaming big.
Come on now. Yes,
I
yes,
mean, could you
yes.
see me? I had the black power suit on, the black briefcase with a French roll, because the French roll was cute back in the day. So I could see myself.
Yeah, yeah,
But when
yeah.
life hit, I just laid down and said, oh, well, it must
Mhm.
not be for me.
Yeah.
But at that time, again, found that belief, and someone else's belief in me pulled me
Mhm.
out of that depression. And I was able to take responsibility for what I had
Mm.
done and the consequences that came with it and made new choices.
Yeah.
So that's really a crisis that helped me understand true leadership. And when we think
Mm.
of leadership, sometimes we jump right to CEOs or VPs of corporations. But I realize being a leader of yourself is first and
Mhm.
foremost.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of it all. So, and it wasn't like I had an aha moment when I was 16. This took time. So, over
Oh,
years,
yeah.
I looked back and said, oh, that's what that was. I took accountability. And that's the first step of true leadership.
Yeah.
So, during that time, after that, I graduated high school, went on to get a college degree and a master's degree, and top of my class, started working at a major corporation and have moved up in that company the last 20 years in the financial role. On the side, started a business and raising my son. And
Mm,
it's just been an amazing journey. But it all started with, like you said, a choice
mm,
of taking responsibility and accountability to lead every area of your life. And for me, that's self first, work, and home.
mm. Well, I mean, I guess we can go home off that, right? We can go home right there. Wow. Okay. So, I told you, family, this is gonna be a good conversation. A good conversation. I want you to, if you're in a car, don't take notes. But if you have the luxury to take notes, write down some of these gems. I really believe that your car gonna be really sharing some wonderful, wonderful how tos to really, when you think about overcoming certain
Hmm.
situations, when you think about, as you talked about, accountability, which I think that's sometimes the first thing is
Hmm.
accepting what the situation is and start taking accountability for your own action and then start to take action.
That's right.
So yeah, it's gonna be good. I want to, as we kind of now really start to cook this up, right? We're cooking this up. Um, when you think about your parents, right? As you said before, coming as a military, being as a military family, moving around. When you think about certain things that your parents was really instilling into you and helping to develop, what certain things you look back on at that really stands out to you? When you
Hmm.
think about moving around, was it just the being open-minded, being demonstrating vulnerability a little bit? What certain things really stood out to you that you definitely has put within your leadership repertoire?
Yeah, that great question, because it really does start at childhood, whether
Yeah.
you had good examples or not. I tell for some folks are like, well, my parents were not great examples of leadership. I said, well, you learn what not to do.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you learn something.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
From my parents, I did learn quite a bit. From my dad, it was very much structure and understanding. Again, it started with accountability with him. If I tell you to do something, do it and do it now. So with
Mhm.
him, it
Mhm.
was when you act quickly.
Yeah.
And I still do that to this day. And that's what I call work ethic. And that's what I expect from my kids is when I ask you to do something, or when your
Do
teacher
it.
does, or when
Mhm.
you're out in the workforce, do that, act quickly. The travels really helped me again be open minded. And the phrase that I use now is everyone has a story. So when you meet
Mhm.
someone, I don't know care what they look like, what their hair looks like, what clothes they have on, color of their skin, what religion they might be. They all have a story how they got to where they are. And
Mhm.
so don't assume right away. Have a conversation and
Yeah.
learn about someone, or just don't judge it and move on if that's not
Mhm.
someone or something you want to learn about. Because there are some
Yeah.
folks that it's hard to have a conversation with, but
Mhm.
for the most part, there's always something you can learn. So everyone has a story. My mom definitely instilled in us faith. and really understanding that we are more than just ourselves. Because as
Mhm.
a selfish little little girl that I was in elementary school, it was all about me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my mom continued like, you know what, we're a part of something much bigger, and we have to get out of our own way. And when we can
Mhm.
start helping others, and we have a faith and trust that there's a God that has put us on this earth for a reason, our creator
Come
that's
on now.
given us tags. Have heard the term tags, which are our talents, abilities, gifts, and
Mm.
skills. So we are
Mm.
all tagged with something. So what is it? What can you give back? What are you
Yeah.
giving back to those around you based on the gifts that you've been given? So
Mhm.
learning how to just get out of my own way, and as part of leadership in a corporation or a leadership of your family, being able to always look at others and building others up has been what I've taken from that, building that,
Yeah.
getting that structure, being open-minded, and then being able to see that this world is not just about me, that I'm here for a purpose. And
Mhm.
my purpose is based on the gifts I already have in me. How do I give back?
Yeah. Yeah. When you think about those moments when you was mentioning like crying to yourself to sleep, crying
Mhm.
yourself to sleep, um moments where you felt lost and depressed, right? And you mentioned far as your family. And I think when I hear that now at the age that I'm at now, um, it's really forming your first network or your first type of mentoring network, right? People
Mhm.
people that can mentor you, right? And teach you. But when you think about like how you were able to do it, to come out of that, we'll call it pit, or come out of that state to get to a state of accountability, what was some of the first steps that you had to do?
Great question. Number one, it was, and I have this, I call it getting your own MBA. I have a
Mhm.
whole talk that I do on it. You first have to master your thoughts.
Mm.
Second, you have to believe in yourself. And the A stands for asking for help. So get your
Mm.
MBA when you feel that you're dark, and you feel you're in a place that you just need help to get out. So
Mhm.
mastering your thoughts is all about stop staying in the spiral of I can't, I won't, it's impossible, because that just breeds more miserable, brings breeds more miserable, right?
Yeah.
If I'm already upset and angry, then I'll become more upset. I'll just find more things. Misery loves company, right? I find more
Mhm.
things to be upset and angry about. So what I had to do is master my thoughts that I keep saying I can't go to college. I keep other people are, and even some people will tell you everything you have going for yourself is gone. See what you did, you messed up. You have to stop
Mm.
hanging around certain people because they're
Come on now.
putting things in your
Come
own
on
mind,
now.
and sometimes they're telling you what you don't need to be hearing. You
Yeah.
need to be hearing it's possible. What can
Mhm.
we do? What are the opportunities that you haven't even seen yet? And
Mhm.
that's why it's important to surround yourself by people who can help get you out of that different mindset and
Mhm.
change your thoughts. Where my mom came in and my dad came in was the belief is I couldn't, even though I could hear that it was possible, I couldn't see it for myself.
Yeah.
And I've heard, I love it when folks say, believe in someone else's belief in you. So
Mm.
that was one step for me I had to do because I couldn't necessarily see it yet, but my mom could. She kept telling me, I see that power suit. I see that briefcase, girl. And so she reminded me of my vision. She reminded
Mhm.
me of my goals. So I had to just reach out and have that faith that, okay, if she can see it, then it might be possible. Let me take that next step. And the
Mhm.
next step is asking for help. And that's hard when you have pride, I tell you. But
Mm.
asking for help of, okay, I need to graduate high school. I don't know how to do this with the baby in daycare. How do I do that? Ask for help. When I was going to college, I'm like, I don't want to have a whole bunch of loans. How do I get scholarships? Ask for
Mhm.
help. And when I started my career and I was a single mom, I wanted to be home with my child and I wanted to move up in my career. How do I do that? I asked a
Mm.
mentor. How do I do that? So ask for help. And that's really the steps that I had to take is change my mindset by changing my group, believing in someone else's belief until I could build my own, and then ask for help to keep on making the next steps and taking the next inspired action.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like what's those girl, you over here dropping bombs. Like I need one of them Jamaican like "Brr, brr, 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 brr," you know what I'm saying? Because family, like I mean NBA. I mean, first we go to tags, talents, ability, gifts, then we go to NBA, mastering your thoughts, believing in yourself, asking for help. Um like I think one of the biggest things, as you mentioned, one like the mastering your thoughts. That's something. It's a practice. What it seems like, it is a practice because one thing I had very recently, and still able, I'm still getting over it now, right? Is the imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
and it's the thoughts that come in my mind of, oh, they gonna find out you really ain't it. They gonna find out that you really ain't this talented. Or they gonna find out this, they gonna find out that. Or you add in your own insecurities, right?
Mhm.
And one of my coaches just today said that every time you go to another level, another success level, another milestone,
Mhm.
you best believe there going to be another level of imposter syndrome that's going to be attached to that.
Mhm.
Okay. So able to live with it, understand how to balance it out. Um, I heard one preacher say it like this is like, you can have doubt in the car, but doubt just can't do the driving, you know.
Mm.
You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because again, like mastering your thoughts, and I would love to we can expound on this or just get your thoughts about it. Is it almost like understanding, and this is how my like with my son, is that you can be afraid and brave at the same time.
Mhm.
Like these emotions can coexist, you
Mhm.
know. And as a child, and as growing up in the 80s, 90s, we wasn't taught that. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? We wasn't taught to really don't cry, don't be afraid.
Mhm.
If you go to church, be blessed, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or,
Gotta
we get
fix it. It's already done.
it's
And you're
already
like, but
done. Like,
it's
well, I'm
not done.
still
Don't you see
afraid.
me?
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like God gonna be on time. Well, I need him to be right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, God's an on time God. Yeah, but I need him now. You know, so I like, was that you kind of when you was like mastering your thoughts? Is that something that you had to do, or just what's your thoughts on that? Like, do you feel emotions can coexist
Oh yeah.
when you think about mastering your thoughts?
Most definitely. And I'm jotting some notes down as you're talking because I'm like, oh, that brought up another thought for me. So if I look down, I'm just taking some
No,
notes
no,
because I'm
hey,
about to drop some
I
more
got
bombs.
my pen right here. I got family. That's why I told you, get you a pen and paper. This is School of Leadership. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We are school is definitely in session. You know what I'm saying? Class is in session. Let's go.
Quote that I love to requote, and I'll keep saying it, is you are allowed to be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the exact same
Mm,
time.
come on now. Come
Point
on.
blank, period. So
Yeah.
when the imposter syndrome comes in, and like to your point, you get to a new level, or you've built enough confidence at one level that hey, I got this. I am the man. I'm the
Yeah. Yeah.
subject matter expert. I can do this. But
Yeah.
when you move to a next level, and then there's more expectation, and then
Mm,
you keep thinking, oh, people think there's more here, and I don't think there is. Well,
yeah.
you know what? I got here with where I am, but I'm still learning and growing, and that's okay too,
Yeah.
because I'm a masterpiece. I already got this. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
a work in progress. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and I still will. And
Mm-hmm.
just be upfront and open with that, and trust yourself that you will learn and get in and grow into the position,
Mm-hmm.
versus trying to say, and a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of women that I mentor, they won't go for another position because they're waiting to be perfect. And then I can take it because they feel like if I take a new role, I'm not really going to fit in. That imposter syndrome kicks in. You will grow into the position.
Yeah.
Apply, take the opportunity, and grow into it. Grow into that next level. You're already there, build up into it. The other thought I have too is we talk about how to train your thoughts, how to master
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts. I love affirmations. I think
Mm-hmm.
affirmations are can be mind shifting, and
Mm-hmm.
really, because your mind believes whatever you tell it. It really
Yeah.
does. If you say it's raining outside, then I mean you can start seeing the clouds. Whatever you focus on, you'll get. So if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to have a better life, if you want to have the success, you can start seeing those things and start believing it. But what
Mm-hmm.
affirmations do is they get you out of the knots. And I love had a one coach tell me, when you say I am affirmations, I am blessed, right? I
Mhm.
do have, I am successful. When you say I am, God says that, He is the I am that I am.
Mm.
So if you exchange that God is equals I am,
Mhm.
that's how you really want to write an I am statement. So if you
Yeah.
say, God is wonderful, I am wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
God is great, I am great. Now, if
Yeah.
you're over here saying, I'm poor,
Mhm.
God is poor, does that
Mm.
work? If
Yeah.
those two things can't coincide, then one of them is wrong. So
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
make sure that whatever we saying we are, that we are what our creators created us to be. So thinking of affirmations in that way helps me to remember that God created me in his image. So
Mhm.
why in the world am I around here
Mhm.
acting like, I'm broken and I can't?
Yeah.
So let me change my thoughts until my actions can follow.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what I'll say is it takes belief is the same. It takes the same belief to doubt or to have faith. You're either believing that it's not going to work out or you're
Woo!
believing it does.
Yeah.
It's the exact same, it's belief. So
Yeah.
we control what we believe. So when we're
Mhm.
in those states of imposter syndrome or we're just in a low state, we have to, or in fear, I could believe everything can go wrong right now. Or
Yeah.
why not believe that it does? And if it does, this is what it would look like. We spend so much time worrying about things that never happen versus looking and having faith to believe that it can and great things will
Yeah.
come from it.
Yeah. 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 Hey, hey, you see? Hey, bam, you see that, right? Yeah. Hey, hey. Tell yourself, tell your doubt. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we coming from all those little emotions today.
Yeah.
Doubt, you know what I'm saying? Depression. They don't want that
Fear,
smoke
all of it.
today. Fear. Hey, Happy Hill, the podcast School of Leadership. We're with Pastor Jecara Rivera.
Oh gosh.
No, no, I'm kidding. Hey, I one thing that you said that I wanted to really underline in the MBA, and I love the acronyms, because I believe, and again, we'll learn a little bit about this a little bit as you talk a little bit more about leadership trifecta and things that you do through it. I believe starting with self is the first thing
Mhm,
before you can really enable your work in your home, right?
mhm,
Starting with self. Um, you said at the end, the A, ask for help. And as a man, hello, somebody.
well,
Well, as a man,
mhm,
my wife tells me this as a lot, and I'm not going to say as a black man because I believe we have black men definitely have some mental
mhm,
um traumas that we have to continue we are continuing to work through. You know,
mhm,
we think about slavery and just the damages that was from slavery
mhm,
on to now. There's still some things that we having to go through, and I think one of the biggest things for me is asking for help.
mhm,
And it's not necessarily that I'm so prideful that I never ask for help. It's just if I would have asked early on compared to once I got to this point
mhm,
where I not only need help, but I need, life saving. Like I need,
mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Now, like, well, good gracious, if you would have asked me earlier, you wouldn't have to spend all this time, all this other
Right.
stuff. So again, we know it's pride, but outside of pride, like one, why do we don't ask for help?
Mhm,
And two, like I know you said this earlier, but I want to make this as simple as possible, family. This is School of Leadership. We want to break this thing down as simple as possible. How do you do that? Like, how does someone from a state of pride, a state of I gotta do this myself, a state of a state of trust,
mhm,
of distrust for others. How do we overcome that to get to I need help?
mhm. Ooh, yeah, deep. And a lot of it, first and foremost, is self-awareness. So,
Yeah.
Jay, you got that. You know you need some help with asking for help, right? So,
Yeah.
number one, self-awareness. In my live talks, what I typically do is I'll either hold up a 20 or 50 or $100 bill, depending on who the audience is. Well, let's say it's a $50 bill,
Mhm.
and I'll have talked about worth, and this $50 bill is just a piece of paper, and you're worth so much more. And then I'll hold this $50 bill up and say, "Well, who wants this $50 bill?" And then there might be a couple of people in the audience that'll raise their hand, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, that looks good." But I just stand there. I'm like, "Oh, you do?" And I just wait. And then finally, a brave soul, they might stand up and wave their hand, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I just stand at the front of the stage. And inevitably, one person will get up and they'll run up to the front and they'll snatch the $50. And everyone's like, "Woo, yay, she got the $50." And then I ask, "Well, why didn't the rest of you get up and come get the money?" And
Mhm.
then folks will start saying, "Well, I didn't want to look needy. I didn't want y'all to think I needed the $50 bill."
Mm.
And some will say, "Well, I thought it was a joke. I wasn't even sure that you were going to give it." Some people thought, "Oh, I thought it was for the people in the front row. I didn't even know it was an opportunity. I missed it because
Mm.
I didn't even see it as an opportunity." Other folks,
Mm.
again, I'm worried about what other people think about me. I said, "But what's she
Mm.
gonna do with the $50 bill over here? Now that she has it in your hand, how do you feel about missing out on the opportunity?" Man, I should have just got up because I was right here in the front row and she ran away all the way from the back to get it.
Mhm.
So I tell that story and I do that exercise so people can first become aware of the ask is an opportunity. We're so
Mhm.
worried about, again, believing what we can't get, or if we ask, the rejection that might happen, versus looking at, if I ask and get what I want, how much faster can I get to success? How
Yeah.
much quicker can I get exactly the directions that I need to go? How
Mhm.
much quicker can I be there? We're so worried about being the part. And I can understand, I want to at least try and do the best that I can do before I ask for help. I get that. That might be
Yeah.
necessary for
Yeah.
some. But there comes a point where you go too far, where now it turns into just self will, work ethic to pride. Well, I have to make it right. I
Mm.
have to be seen as the perfect one. A lot of
Mm.
folks at work and some of my mentees I talk to, they hate asking questions in meeting. I don't want to seem dumb. I'm like, you asked the questions about 12 other people in the meeting that had the exact same
Same
question.
question. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't be fearful of what you might look like in front of other people. Don't be
Mhm.
fearful of not being the know-it-all. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, become the learn-it-all. Become the one that
Mm.
I'm walking this journey with you. So if you're the type of leader, whether you're leading your home, your children, your spouse, or you're leading your job, you need to, or someone, other people under you, direct reports,
Mhm.
become a servant leader. Don't say, "Hey, I know everything and this is why I'm the leader." Become the
Mhm.
type of person that says, "I don't know all the answers, but we can learn it together." And
Yeah.
that way you can take yourself off the pedestal you put yourself on. So when you ask for help, now you're doing it as a collaboration and a team versus trying to be seen as the one that has all the answers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how leaders that I have exhibit my leadership qualities after share that one common theme around transparency
Hmm.
and just being very authentic of, you know what, I don't know,
Hmm.
but let's find out together. You
Hmm.
know, let's so it's amazing how you can turn that one thing around asking others, and you can really especially if you're fostering a team behavior,
Hmm.
right? When you're fostering and you are modeling a type of behavior to your direct reports, to your family, whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
of not only allowing yourself to be vulnerable to say, "Hey, let's ask someone, let's ask the expert," or "I don't
Hmm.
know it," let's ask for help, right? Compared to relying on your knowledge, your strength, your will, but also showing that as a behavior that is acceptable and
Yes.
is somewhat required for
Yes.
us to really to succeed collectively, you
Agreed.
know?
Yeah, and I call that inclusive, right? So to your point, when you're in a group of people, if you're always the one that has all the answers, they may not feel the need to share or open up or
Hmm.
give their side of things. But when you can open up and say, "Well, I'm not sure, or I have a thought, but I'm wondering what yours is. I'm looking forward to hear your perspective." And when you
Hmm.
can open it up and be more collaborative, you're bringing in, and that's the inclusive, excuse me, nature of a good leader is making sure everyone feels heard.
Hmm.
And the other thought you had, I think, is spot on, as far as being able to be vulnerable. That's the word I use. Vulnerable and authenticity are two great words for leaders. When
Hmm.
I can show up as 100% me, that gives you permission to show up as 100% you.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, you hit that spot on for sure.
It's I love, if I had to say one of the silver linings to the pandemic and all this stuff is that
Mhm.
we no longer have to look at resumes and people work history and see a gap there and say, well, why was you doing anything?
Mhm.
Because now I think we're giving, even though we probably should have created space for this, to say, you know what, I need a break.
Mm.
I need a
Yes.
timeout. I need a couple months. I need to
Mhm.
take a sabbatical to rest. You
Mhm.
know, we're now seeing the importance of rest, the importance of stillness, and to your point of, and the family, it's okay to show up and say I'm not okay.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. It's
It like
okay not to be okay.
it is okay to not to be okay.
Mhm.
You know, it is okay in those moments, especially when and I guess we can kind of talk about now leadership from leading leaders,
Mhm.
leaders of leaders, and really think about going outside of now you leading others, right?
Mhm.
And to foster that type of behavior, I mean, to me, that's like transparency is like another love language for me,
Mhm.
you know, and being from, because that at the end of the day, we're all human. And
Mhm.
and and when we able to humanize the very nature of our human of being human, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're right. I don't feel like it today. And it's
Yeah.
okay. It is definitely okay. So when you think about, we don't went from tags, we don't went to MBAs. Now we don't have
Mhm.
our MBAs. We have some self leadership qualities. Now we're
Mhm.
building out the team. Now we're talking about the family. Now we're talking about work, direct reports, or even if you are a mentor,
Mhm.
informal leaders. Let's talk about far as fostering behavior, creating space for people to do that. So when you talk about your leadership trifecta and really talk now around the home and work and leading others, what's some key points that you really try to hammer home, or you really try to deliver to your audience or to the individuals that you're coaching?
Yeah, two things come to mind, right offhand is, and we've talked a little bit about the authenticity and vulnerability.
Hmm.
I think the idea is, and you're using the word humanize, which I love that too, is you can't tell or show people your glory without telling them your story. My
Mm.
coach, Delator McNeil, tells me that all the time. It's like, because people will put you on a pedestal real quick. So if you
Yeah.
are a great leader, we're assuming, you're our podcast listeners, they're great leaders looking for some better tips, right? And
Hmm.
folks
Hmm.
are looking at you and they just assume, okay, you're just great at what you do.
Yeah.
Don't let them sit you on a pedestal. Tell them how you got there. Share with them the
Mm.
stories and the failures, the mistakes that you learned from to get to where
Hmm.
you are.
Yeah.
Even as a parent, I had to learn this of my teenagers. With my oldest son, he didn't ask any questions at all. Like, he just went through life like, I guess this is what life is. But my
Hmm.
daughter, whew, she asked me every question under the book, and I'm just like, oh, she don't need to be knowing all my business. But
uh, uh,
so
uh,
she's 20 now, and this is her when she was like 10 and 11 and 12
mhm.
and 13. And if you can imagine the teenage years, I
Yeah.
was like, I have to tell all my personal business, because in my household growing up, that's not what we did. We didn't share
Yeah.
life like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I had to become a different leader and a different coach for her in that season. So I
Mm,
learned how to be vulnerable, transparent, and allowed her to say that,
mm.
she used to say, "Mom, you just don't understand." And I'm like, "Girl, I've been there plus two times what you think you're going through.
You
Shoot."
know?
But she had never heard the story. She had only seen, okay, you made it out. So
Mhm,
being able to share with your mentees, your direct reports, or your children, whoever you're leading, is that there's a story behind you too.
mhm.
And be open as much as you're able to. I know that some stories are hard to tell.
Yeah,
Um, but the other side of that too is learning from your mistakes. I think we have this idea of win or lose. It's really win or learn.
yeah.
And
Ooh.
whatever mistakes, whatever things that have happened in the past that didn't work out how we expected it to, you learned from it. You learn what not to do the next time or who
Mhm,
not to trust the next time. Take those learnings, and that's what you teach back to your mentees and to your direct reports and your children, because they can learn from all of that as well. And so do we as we move up and over.
mhm.
And the third one just came to my mind is feedback. So, like I said, number
Mm.
one, it's just being authentic. Number two is and tell your story, right? Number two is being a what was number two? I just said it.
Learning from your mistakes, I
Yeah,
think.
learning from your mistakes. Thank you. And number three is asking for feedback. So, in all our asking that we did
Mhm,
before, when you're in a leadership role, don't assume everything's great because everyone's smiling in your face. I typically, and I teach this in everything I do. I think it's so important. Instead of just asking, "How am I doing? How's our relationship?" Here's a new way to ask the question. Here, I need you to write it
mhm,
down. You're going to now, from this day forward, say, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is the
mhm,
quality of our relationship over the last week or month? Or if you're at work, what's the quality of our my performance over the last month or quarter? However
mm,
often you're asking for that feedback. If you
mhm.
get a 9 or a 10, I want you to celebrate, but your follow-up question is, why so high? Because you want to know what you did to keep that 9 or
Mhm,
10 so you can continue to do that. If it's a
mhm,
lower number at 3 or 4, you need to don't ask how to get to a 10. I need you to ask, how can I get to a 5?
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And get the specific, actionable feedback. If we get, oh, everything's great, you're a great leader, no problem. Oh, mom, you're a great mom. Or, "Hey, you're a great civic leader." You're not really hearing what you're doing well and what you can improve on. So
Yeah.
you want to ask for feedback so you get specific, actionable words that you can build on. So when you're
Mhm.
leading other leaders and it's time for you to level up, those are three things I think you could definitely do is lead from those areas.
Yeah, yeah. Happy of the podcast, School of Leadership with Jecara Rivera. Um, this is so good. Family, do me a favor, share this. Share this with an upcoming leader. Share it with a young person, right?
Mhm.
Um, sh- Share it with someone that's already in leadership, right? Again, leadership is not a title, but a choice.
Right.
You mentioned a couple things I want to really unpack a little bit. You talk about being authentic, and again, even before that, everyone sees your glory, but you have to tell your story. Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Um, because I know my mom is gonna say this
Mhm.
when she listened to the podcast. 'Cause she said, "You always talk about you being a preacher's kid, a PK and everything," and like a lot of my experiences are wrapped around that,
Yeah.
you know, good or bad, right?
Mhm.
And one thing that I had to tell my daughter this too. She said I had to tell like, you know me as dad, but you never met the 12-year-old John or the third the 20-year-old John, whatever. You never
Right.
met, but I used to believe it or not, I actually was a kid before. I know you may not believe that, but I
Right.
actually was a kid before. And to your point of sharing your story,
Mhm.
because I loved, when I say I loved and I gravitated to when my parents told me stories when they were in the world. You know what I'm saying? When they were
Yes.
in the world, when they were lost,
Right.
in the world, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And I love those stories that my mom would tell, my days would tell me when he was in Vietnam, and because it allowed me to see them in a different light. And to your
Mhm.
point, allow me to humanize their walk now with God, right?
Mhm.
To where like I met them as pastors. Like when I was born, my mom and dad was pastors,
Mhm.
preachers, and everything. So I don't know this my mom out in the streets. You know what I'm saying? I don't know
Right.
my dad when he was doing this and being all crazy, all in the clubs and doing all this crazy stuff. I don't know that. But when they tell me that, I'm able to
Mhm.
understand their
Yeah.
story and understand why they give their glory. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Mhm.
Why they give their glory. And I think one of the biggest, especially now, when I'm thinking about like what's needed, being authentic is so much,
Mhm.
it's so key because
Yeah.
we live in a world now where we can hide so much from social media.
Yes.
We can put sometimes we mask it by medications,
Yeah.
by
Mhm.
other things. And it is definitely okay for leaders to come to the table
Yeah.
and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like all the leaders that I like
Mhm.
that I respected in my field at work, they all had that same comment that where they came to a big presentation,
Yeah.
to a big, I'll never get we're going through a transformation, and the head of the one director said, "That's a great question. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know." But it gave so much like,
A good.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because like it's so like, you know what? I don't know. It's a great question. We're working
Mhm.
about it. We're working it out, you know?
And I've been a part of some panels too where you'll have the leaders, VPs are up there and people are asking questions. Tell me a time when you messed up. And I
Yeah,
had one person, she acted like she never had a mistake. Like, oh,
yeah,
well, no, everything's been perfect and my career has just excelled according to my plans. I was like, come on now, that you're not relatable. I can't see.
exactly.
Oh
You
yeah.
you're
Mm-hmm.
not relatable. And
Mm-hmm.
leadership is almost like it's like it's the ship. And I don't know what acronym on the Greek word for ship with everything, but you think about
Yeah,
relationship,
yeah.
you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So you think about there's an essence around some type of connection
Right.
that you're showing, that you're interacting, that you're exhibiting,
Yeah.
what I'm saying, a quality that you're building potentially with others, you
Yeah.
know. So it's very critical to do that. And as you mentioned, the last piece, which family, I can't overstate this piece enough when you said ask for feedback because it is so one more so critical. I have
Yes.
been a leader, and again, throughout my leadership journey, on both ends of the table, where I had to let people know, again, here's where we stand. You know what I'm saying? Here's where not only can you provide feedback for me as a leader, am I'm doing the right things, and here's some feedback I need to provide to you, in which you can do the sandwich case, give them a reward, a praise, tell them what they're doing wrong, and then give them a good compliment at the end. You know what I'm saying? However technique you want to do it, right?
Mhm.
But I have also been on the other end where I didn't get timely feedback.
Mm.
You didn't give me an opportunity to
Yeah.
do a correction.
Correction. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying, on what I was doing,
Yeah.
and it was now the onus on me as a direct report to make sure I need feedback.
Yeah.
And as leaders, hey, if we're not providing that, we need to hold ourselves accountable to provide feedback.
Mhm.
And if we're not as leaders not getting feedback,
Ask.
we need to ask. The onus is on us too as well. It's a two-way street. If you're not getting
Mhm.
feedback, you need to say, hey, I need some feedback. How am
Yeah.
I doing? And I love that quality question. I
Mhm.
love that. Wow.
Yeah, and I love, and as leaders, early and often. That's my two words I share with folks. When you're giving feedback to others, give it early and often. Don't
Mm,
wait until you have your monthly meeting to tell someone they did, great in a presentation 3 weeks ago. Tell them right after that
yeah.
presentation. Let them know what
Yeah.
they did well, and say
Yeah.
those things up front. So early and often is feedback, and that's why I love the question as well. Is you can schedule it, and it doesn't work just at work. I do it at home too. I ask my husband, "Hey, husband." From a scale on 1 to 10, how's the quality of our relationship? One time he gave me a 4. I said, okay, bruh, what did I do?
Yeah, yeah.
It
I'm
happened
gonna
to be
try that on my wife. I'm gonna try that on my.
it would just happen to be one of those weeks. It was his birthday. I had business travel. I
Mhm,
called him that day to tell him about my day. I did not wish that man a happy birthday, not one time in that 15-minute
mm,
conversation.
mm.
Whoops. Also forgot to leave the money for the field trip, leave it out so he could, pay for the kid. I'm off traveling and he's responsible for everything. And I did not set him up for success. So he's a
Mm,
little upset that week. So I said, okay, thanks for the exact specific feedback. So I know what not to do
mm,
or what I can
mm.
correct, right? So
Yeah.
asking that question, and I love the numbers because fine is not good feedback. You're doing great is not good feedback. So even if it feels good, and then sometimes it's hard to ask because we're afraid of what we're going to hear,
Yeah.
ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Because all feedback is information. It's not good, it's not bad, it's information, and
Mm.
you get to choose what to do with it. Like my grandma said, you can eat the meat and spit out the bone.
Yeah.
Get the information and what you need to use it. If not, move it to the side.
Move it, move it. Oh wow, this is good. This is good. Um, so talk to us a little bit about leadership trifecta, where people can get more information. Talk to us a little about your website. Talk to us a little bit about again what it is, right?
Yeah, so I coined the phrase leadership trifecta because it builds on uh, what's his name? John Maxwell. He's a leadership expert and he talks about leadership is not a title, but it's
Mm-hmm.
influence. So, and it has to be earned. It can't be given or expected. It
Mm.
has to be
Yeah.
earned.
Yeah.
But what I built on that and then coined the phrase the leadership trifecta is it's not just leading other people. You have to lead all areas of your life, first starting with yourself, work,
Mm-hmm.
and home. And I help folks with through my coaching and mentoring, help them to understand and see the different success principles they can put into their lives to activate the leadership trifecta.
Mm-hmm.
I find that if we're only focusing at work, then that could be really strong, but then your leadership at the house may be weak and lacking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if you're not taking or girding yourself with the self leadership, then everything else is going to fall to the wayside. So,
Mm.
what I do on my website, jacararivera.com, I have a slash 10 day. Let me say that it's a 10-day journey. I'm dropping jewels on you every
Mm-hmm.
day on how you can use success habits. And some of them I mentioned today. Feedback. Another one we hadn't talked about is being adaptable to change because change is going to happen. Your kids grow up, your organization or your company may downsize, right size, or change departments altogether. And even within ourselves, when we become and we grow, we change, our mind
Mm-hmm.
shift, we learn different. And so we have to be able to adapt to change. So I drop these gems on you, and I
Mm-hmm.
really would love for the audience if y'all just take a look at that, jacararivera.com/10, the number 10 day, and join me on the journey to really activate the leadership trifecta in your life. So I do this at my company as a leader. I also am a speaker and a trainer, and I train these concepts to folks and upcoming leaders so that have the foundation to build in all areas of their life, so they can both excel at work and have the life they desire outside as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was Jecara Rivera /10 dot
Is
com. Is that correct?
jacararivera.com slash the number 10 day.
Okay. Time day. Okay. I want to make sure we get that. And as well as that will be on the YouTube. We'll have that below, family. Wow, this has been great. This has been great. I feel like we can go on and on. But I promise this is what she don't even knows, but she's gonna come back, y'all. She is going to come back because to your point, we did not even touch on like leadership flexibility,
Hmm.
being like flexing as a leader when you think about adapting to change.
Yeah,
I
emotional
love how you
intelligence,
mentioned.
social style. There's so many
Yeah,
things you
it's
need to understand and know as a leader, yeah, to be
oh, it's
successful.
so much, so much, so much. But let's leave on this. How would you define leadership?
How would I define leadership? Leadership to me, first and foremost, is accountability. I find that when you choose to lead, that's step one. Because now I
Mhm,
know that it's up to me for my life self to work out well. If it's going to change and it's going to be well, it's up to me at work. Same thing in my home. If I want to
Mhm.
see change, and that's where that leadership trifecta, that delta, that means change, right?
Mhm.
Is if you
Mhm.
want to
Mhm.
see change and grow, then you need to first take 100% accountability and responsibility for your life. Being authentic and
Mhm.
trusting yourself is important too as a leader. When you can show up and be yourself, it allows others to show up as well. And trusting that you're a masterpiece and a work in progress at the exact same
Progress
time
at the same time.
allows you
Come
to
on.
lead as a servant as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Happy family. Let's give a big round of applause to our guest, Jecara Rivera. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy family. Wow, it's been such a great show. Know that you are strong and know that you were created for greatness. And no matter what life brings you, always remember to love God, love self, and love your neighbor. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray. Till next time, be blessed.